Welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain No Mercy. This movie tells the story of a female ex-bodyguard who must fight a gang of delinquents to save her kidnapped sister. When she could no longer control her anger, even the criminals could not resist her. Will she be able to save her sister? Let's find out in No Mercy. No Mercy begins by showing a woman named Annie who has just been released from prison. Annie used to be a female bodyguard, but she was later sent to prison for assaulting a politician. After being in prison for more than a year, she is finally released and she immediately returns home to meet her disabled younger sister, Yoon-hae. Yoon-hae is very happy with Annie's return, especially after her sister gave her a hairpin as a gift. As they are about to sleep, Yoon-hae expresses her desire to quit school, but Annie continues to convince her sister to stay in school because it was their late father's will. The following day, Annie is surprised by a box containing a red dress and shoes of the same color. Yoon-hae also writes a letter for her sister. Annie was touched by the gift from her sister but couldn't thank her directly because Yoon-hae had already left for school. Meanwhile at school, it turns out that Yoon-hae is often the victim of bullying in her class, which is why she wants to quit school. One of the students in her class tries to help Yoon-hae from being bullied, but she gets bullied by a gang of girls. After school, Yoon-hae is forced to go with the bully girls to a karaoke place. When Yoon-hae becomes uncomfortable and says she wants to go home, her classmates take her to a place where they often hang out with delinquent students. Knowing that Yoon-hae has mental retardation, they then try to use Yoon-hae to get money by making her a call woman to hook up with the older men. They purposely use Yoon-hae to trap the older men, where the delinquent students will pretend to save her when she is about to be bullied by the older men, then drain their money. The delinquents feel confident that the philanderer who wants to bully Yoon-hae will never report them to the police. According to the law in force in South Korea, if they are proven to seduce underage girls, they will be immediately thrown into prison. Tempted by the amount of money they get, the delinquents continue to take advantage of Yoon-hae, until on one occasion, they have to deal with a gangster named Sungman. The man then asked for a ransom of 10 million won if they wanted to bring Yoon-hae home. Not daring to fight Sungman and not having as much money as he asked for, the thugs finally left and left Yoon-hae just like that. On the other hand, Annie feels very worried because her sister hasn't come home yet. She has tried to contact Yoon-hae, but there is no answer. The next day, wearing the red dress that Yoon-hae gave, Annie goes to her sister's school to find out where her sister is. However, she couldn't find her sister anywhere. When asking Yoon-hae's homeroom teacher, she gets blamed for sending Yoon-hae, who has mental retardation, to a public school instead of a special school for people with disabilities. When Annie was about to leave, one of the students who had defended Yoon-hae in the past approached her and showed her a video about the bullying that Yoon-hae often experienced at school. Seeing this, Annie immediately ran into the bully girls and beat them in the toilet. After that, she forces one of them to take her to the place of the delinquents who have used Yoon-hae for sheer profit. One of the delinquents doesn't move when Annie beats him up. He then reveals that Yoon-hae has been kidnapped by a gangster named Sungman and he doesn't know their whereabouts. After that, Annie is given a business card that might lead her to Sungman. Annie then calls the phone number listed on the business card, but gets no answer. She then calls the police station to report that her younger sister is being kidnapped, but the cop asks her to come directly to the police station and give an official report after confirming whether her sister was really kidnapped or just ran away from home. Suddenly, Annie feels annoyed because she doesn't get any support from law enforcement. Finally, she decides to find the location of Yoon-hae herself. First of all, Annie goes to the address listed on the business card, which is a place of business engaged in money lending services. She doesn't find Sungman there, but she does meet a worker who does live there. At first, the worker denied that he knew Sungman, but after Annie threatened him, the man finally confessed and told Annie the license plate number of Sungman's car. After that, Annie left with the worker's car keys and a stun gun. Elsewhere, it turns out that Sungman has sold Yoon-hae to CEO Jun, a man who runs a prostitution business. Yoon then takes Yoon-hae to his place and teaches the girl how to serve and satisfy the mashers. Meanwhile, Annie drives through town and checks every parking area for Sungman's car. Her search was not in vain when she finally found the car in a parking area. She waits for Sungman to appear in her car. A few hours later, Sungman finally shows up and gets into his car. Annie then followed him until she came to a fairly quiet street, where she crashed her car into Sungman's car. After that, in one swift motion, Annie gets out of her car and then electrocutes Sungman until he faints. Not long after, Sungman wakes up and is surprised by the presence of Annie in the car, who has a rope wrapped around his neck while forcing him to tell him where Yoon-hae is. In the end, Sungman couldn't help but obey her request. However, Sungman purposely crashes his car to free himself from Annie on the way. After the knot around his neck is untied, Sung-man immediately attacks In-hee, who seems to have difficulty fighting in the car due to space constraints. Even so, In-hee finally manages to break Sung-man's hand and get information about Yoon-hae. She then calls CEO Jun on Sung-man's cell phone to ask where her sister is. But CEO Jun says that he sold Yoon-hae to someone else because the girl is completely useless and keeps crying. Because CEO Jun didn't tell where he sold Yoon-hae, and he went to his place. There, she meets Young's assistant who wears Yoon-hae's hairpin. She immediately took the hairpin and forced the woman to bring it to Young. Without further ado, In-hee immediately beats Young and forces the man to reveal information about the identity of the person who bought Yoon-hae. But then the assistant reveals that Yoon-hae had called her home before being taken away. But because no one picks up, she finally calls a mini-market she often goes to. The assistant then informs that Yoon-hae was taken away by a young man wearing a black suit. After getting the phone number of the mini-market that Yoon-hae called, And-hee immediately traced the location and rushed to it. The scene then switches to a man named Jun-woo who is driving a car, which is the man who picked up Yoon-hae from CEO Jun's place. When Jun-woo stops at a gas station and heads to the local convenience store, Yoon-hae seizes the opportunity to escape by taking the bus. But Jun-woo immediately catches up with the bus and drags the girl down from there by telling the passengers that Yoon-hae is his younger sister who is depressed. Jun-woo then takes Yoon-hae to an abandoned building. Meanwhile, And-hee has come to the mini-market that Yoon-hae called and meets the old man who owns the mini-market. When she asked about Yoon-hae, the old man accidentally revealed to her that he and his two friends had sexual assaulted Yoon-hae. Hearing this, And-hee becomes angry because her sister is used as an object to satisfy the lust of depraved men who take advantage of her sister's condition. Without thinking, she immediately beats up the old man, severing his finger. She also goes to one of the mini-market owner's friends and makes him battered. After that, And-hee went to the workshop owner and smashed his hand with a hammer. Before killing the man, she asks about Yoon-hae's whereabouts. Having no other choice, the workshop owner finally informs that the one who took Yoon-hae away was Park Young-chun, a politician who had imprisoned In-hee. The workshop owner reveals that 3 years ago, he had sexual assaulted Yoon-hae in Young-chun's car, which was being repaired at his workshop. When Young-chun's car has been repaired, the politician accidentally finds Yoon-hae's underwear. The man then asked the workshop owner, who said that the panties belonged to a girl who has mental disability. Since then, Young-chun has been involved in raping Yoon-hae. That's the reason why Yoon-hae is often late coming home, which makes In-hee very worried. But Yoon-hae never said anything to her sister. One day, In-hee decides to find out why her sister often comes home late. After school, she sees Yoon-hae in a luxury car that takes her to a hotel. There, she caught Park Young-chun raping her sister. Using a screwdriver, she immediately attacks the man and injures his eye. However, her actions to save her sister instead cause her to be in prison because Young-chun can easily twist the facts as a politician. After learning that In-hee was out of prison, Young-chun ordered Jun-woo to kill Yoon-hae and In-hee. After getting Jun-woo's phone number, In-hee then calls the man. Jun-woo, who is fed up with Young-chun, instead tells In-hee the location of Young-chun's residence. Even without adequate preparation, In-hee is still determined to go to Young-chun's residence to kill the man. She then sneaks into Young-chun's room. With only a gun and her fighting skills, she can defeat Young-chun's men, while on the other hand, Young-chun tries to escape from there. When Young-chun was about to escape in a car, In-hee immediately chased after him. Even though Young-chun manages to escape, In-hee manages to shoot the man in the arm. On his run, Young-chun calls Jun-woo and orders him to kill Yoon-hae right away, but Jun-woo instead calls In-hee and informs her of Young-chun's headquarters while bringing Yoon-hae home. But Young-chun had already known of Jun-woo's betrayal and immediately ordered his henchmen to arrest Jun-woo and Yoon-hae. Long story short, Young-chun and his men managed to catch Jun-woo and Yoon-hae. After imprisoning Yoon-hae somewhere, Young-chun then kills Jun-woo. Just as they are about to bury Jun-woo's body, In-hee breaks into their base in a car. She is then involved in a fierce battle with Young-chun's men. Although In-hee was initially quite overwhelmed by Young-chun's henchmen who ganged up on her, she managed to overthrow them all to save her sister. When In-hee was about to take her sister, who was slumped down on the sofa, she was suddenly attacked by Young-chun, who had been waiting for her. The two of them fought fiercely. However, using all her strength, she manages to kill Young-chun by beating him to death, even though she must be seriously injured. The film ends with In-hee who managed to save Yoon-hae and they left the place, driving far away to nowhere.